Yeah, we say bust it down and why you cut it open?
No, leave it out.
Them feel only them alone know how to deal with the get to youth, eh?
Man, everything we do it non-stop.
For what up?
Abuzanimah, pick up yourself.
Dynamite, real talk.
Me say the people them a blaze non-stop. Them a blaze non-stop. 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 The people them a blaze non-stop. Them a blaze non-stop. Non-stop. Non-stop.
Alright, every day we a blaze non-stop. Generation a race non-stop. Conscious and them afraid non-stop. Babylon them just a raid non-stop.
Well, non-stop is all about the non-stop seeking to where we love to do. Non-stop seeking to liberation, non-stop seeking to the upliftment of our people. Understand?
Yeah. It's everything non-stop.
Everything non-stop.
It's non-stop living, non-stop positivity, non-stop love, non-stop cooking, non-stop liberation, non-stop ganja money, everything non-stop.
Non-stop. The fire just happens non-stop. Non-stop. See reggae. Catapult, Dynamite, I think
Vincentian there, Patrick Jr.
Yes.
You got Justice Immortal. Not for the artists in there, but you not get play. You not hear them artists. The reggae industry is not built. So a lot of the artists with reggae music and other genres outside the soca, you don't really hear them much. But you know, I have enough reggae artists on the island. Really, really good music.
Let the fire just a blaze.
The fire just a blaze.
Me said the fire just a. When the music video was directed and shot by Island Rebel Media.
Big up Island.
So
Akley.
enough respect to Akley.
All right. Good evening. Thank you for everybody who's watching us this afternoon. And welcome to Non-Stop. This is our chance to share a little bit about the culture in St. Vincent, what's the scene on the ground, what we're trying to do, what we're trying to build. How do we monetize our culture for us, so we could feed ourselves with it, so the world could know a little bit more about what is St. Vincent and what we have to offer. And this afternoon I have with me Mr. Abuzanimah, Vincentian reggae artist. Joining us later would be Mr. Joey Tyrell. Most of you know him as Dynamite. And I have with me Mr. Rose. What's your
Dynamite.
what's your
I'm Connolly Shibambo Rose.
Okay, there you had him. He introduced himself. So we really would like to take today to just commemorate African industrialization and the fact that as people of the African diaspora, and more so people who are disconnected from Africa, when we look back to the motherland, we look for inspiration. We look for stories of triumph, we look for stories of success. And here in the Caribbean, we have our stories too, but there's always a searching that's going on, a need to connect. And when we look at the wall and you see Afrobeat and you see all these things, you see what was the name of the African Shatta Wale, that's the guy from Ghana. He's like a dancehall artist. When you look at these guys and you see the impact they have, it warms my heart personally, and it makes me think that it is possible as well for our people. So we wanted to commemorate today by celebrating that and by giving you a little bit of what it's like on the ground in St. Vincent. If I could ask Mr. Abuza just to give us a little introductory remarks on the whole issue that we're hoping to share with you today.
True. Yeah, well, I think we're really touch it. Within a whole, the building of an industry locally is exactly where where the whole development would begin. A lot of us just mentioned it to you, a lot of people now, they don't even know exactly how to build an industry or even what that means. So we tend to follow Jamaica's industry, we tend to follow Trinidad and even North America. But being able to put something together for ourselves, this is where we're not being able to jump over. So coming out of Africa within our whole development, right? We come to see where we came from to where we are now. It's good, we give thanks.
So Uncle Rose, I don't know if you have some introductory comments you wanted to share with us about industrialization, about Africa, about the diaspora, and I guess the relationship between the islands and the motherland. Just to start off our little conversation.
Well, in the period 2020, but from the late 50s, 60s, which culminated in the 70s with the rise of the Black Power movement in the Caribbean and the Black Power movement in the United States, we are always exposed to Africa. And with the struggle against apartheid, the people in the Caribbean, including all the liberation movements and revolutionary organizations, participated for freedom from the South African people. We also supported the liberation movements in SWAPO, in Zimbabwe, and so on. We always had a high level of consciousness concerning Black people's struggle and our own relationship with Africa. As I said, from the Black Power movement, it was the Afro hairstyles, the wearing of sandals and African attire and so on. This has not stopped. It has retrogressed in a little way that there's no real movement. There are small pockets and organizations around. So you don't see that, but when is African Liberation Day and so on. However, concerning monetization and so on, there's been a Back to Africa movement over the last 2 years, with Ghana having the return to Africa. And if you see a number of people from North America are actually leaving the United States and so on and going to live in Africa. So they're opening up economic opportunities. Africa, as we all know, is a country laden with most of the mineral resources in the world. But they've been exploited by other countries, which we know, and some African countries have just moved to setting up a big, large free zone area. So there's more aid and trade and connections, and there are now airlines now reaching out to the Caribbean. So that's basically our link with Africa.
So I like what you said there about Africa having a wealth of resource, and over the years I think we have come to see them tap into it, make use of it. Sometimes them and sometimes investors from other countries like the Chinese, like we've been hearing about the Chinese and their involvement with Africa. But then there is also the thing that stands out to me is the wealth of resource that's in Africa, but also the wealth of resource that's in the Caribbean. And it's about how we could learn from our ancestors. I know we are separated by this big ocean, but more so by ideology, by Westernism, by colonization, which is why we think differently and which is why we don't really communicate. But if we were supposed to look at what they're doing, in particular in the creative industries, with how they're able to utilize the indigenous culture of Africa, keep it alive and commercialize it. So much so that right now, in Europe, being African is it's a fashion trend. I don't know if you guys...
It's sad to say that that's already the case right here in the Caribbean too, where you notice the certain aspects of the name Rastafari culture we're being exploited by people who are not Rastafarian and making lots of money, because they see there's a demand for it. They love the colors, they love the hair, the image, they love the ganja. So people capitalizing on that, marketing it. They're doing papers, they're doing pipes, they're doing it. It's not Rastafarian people who's doing all that stuff. They're doing flags, they're doing nice clothes, all in the name of supplying this demand, which is our thing, but yet still we're not doing it. It doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make sense.
So if we were supposed to come to it now, it could be Well, I think the global term for it is cultural appropriation.
Right.
You know, they go to a country and they commercialize it, and then they take it from the people, and they take it back to their countries and they sell it. You know, they put it on TV.
Misappropriation.
Yeah, they sell it. They basically they come to your country. They see the original thing. They draw it. They take photographs. You know, they document the natural thing, and then they go back to their country and they make money from it. So I guess my question to you, Uncle Rose, is what do you think the Africans might be doing that we don't necessarily know or isn't aware of? Why can't we commercialize our culture too? I mean, there is commercialization of our culture, but it's limited to just what we inherited from the colonials, you know, what we managed to remember. And it manifests in carnival. Not to put down carnival or anything, it's just that there is more to these islands than shaking up your ass in the streets, you know. There's more richness, there's more triumph, more stories that could inspire the people, that could inspire the world. And how do we access this?
There have been efforts made much more now to speak about the creative industries and how beneficial they are, not only to the artists and the dramatists and all of that. And there have been some monies to Caribbean regional institutions and so on. The question is, how do we really market our authentic or traditional, whether it's the Vinci music, whether it's the Dominican, Buddhist and so on. So there's one, greater need for regional cooperation. Two, there's greater need for funding, resources, because we have a number of recording studios. We have a number of bands, we play in a number of genres. In St. Vincent, in a sense, we have moved from having 7-8 piece brass bands down to combo, down to DJs. But it does not mean that, like in the African context, they are more creative or innovative. What I think with a level of consciousness and a level of involvement of music organizations and the creative people, if that level of collaboration takes place, we are onto something good and we have something to market to the world. Africa can take a Caribbean style carnival. You mentioned carnival. We can market that. How do we do it? Where do we start? To Sierra Leone, to Ghana? How do we organize themselves? There is time that the Caribbean people take up thy bed and walk. And we have a rich music industry and a rich tradition, so we should just move forward.
Very true.
I don't know if you have anything to share on that note as well.
Yeah, definitely. Now, you see, me personally, right, I think from the very get-go, the African people was never onto commercialization of art. I don't even think it was about that. I mean, it is something that we can do, right, because of the times, and we're intelligent enough that we can be able to come up with marketing and whatever to do stuff, right, on the commercial level. But I don't think, for some, I could be wrong, that the ancient African man was on commercialization when he was creating the overs. It was a higher level still now, and that's what made the commercial value even more because it was not created with that intent. You overs me, right?
Yeah. So you're saying that in Africa, art didn't exist really. What we consider to be art now may have come as part of the colonial experience, and what these people had was a function
it's
within.
Mixed up, right?
Yeah, it was more spiritual or more representational, more I guess more like storytelling. You know? Sometimes like in different spaces I've heard about the griot in St. Vincent. We just say our calypsonian is the griot. It's the person who will come and talk out the thing them you're seeing in the society, the stories that are happening.
We call him the poor man's newspaper.
The poor man's newspaper, exactly.
Okay.
So
right.
So, but you see how even music has a social
commentary, yeah.
Right. And if that comes from Africa, if that's what we remember, then what do we remember of images? You know, what do we remember of images when it comes to our relationship with Africa? I mean, is it just a black skin? Is it just a a melanin thing. What is our connection really? Like, what's the deeper connection between the African and the Caribbean person? What is it? What is it that's there?
There are efforts being made in some institutions, University of the West Indies, maybe at Cuba and some extent, Jamaica, Trinidad, to teach African history. They may not be on the curriculum per se, but that is done. I know in St. Vincent over the last 40 years, I mean, not only speaking of that, having the Garifuna language taught as a subject, having African history, African culture, anthropology, and so on done. So if there are not people in authority who are willing to expose the children, not only the academic education to get 12 subjects and how many degrees and so on, but to have that level of social consciousness, that cultural awareness of what is taking your historical roots and how it relates to present-day society. So that's very important for us to begin that process of, education and advocacy and so on, because the goal is wide open for it.
Yeah. I'm right there with you in terms of there needs to be some sort of attention given to the value and the impact of the heritage that we have here, the stories. For me, I see it as plain as day. I see that we operate to one system of value, and it's aesthetic value, it's emotional value, it's the value you give to your wife, to your children. All of that was taught to us by the colonials, and we continue to regurgitate it. So if we're supposed to create something that is originally ours, then you have to forget about all of that. Or if you're not forgetting about it, you have to be able to inculcate more of Africa into us, more of Kalinago, more of Garifuna. It has to be a part
More
of us.
indigenous,
Yeah.
definitely.
So that's why I think we need to and that is how you'll feel the magnitude of what is Vincent,
Definitely.
a holistic, powerful, hybrid community, black, white,
Sure.
mix up, but unified.
Definitely, because we had a reason one time, and a brethren made a comment, and then he said, "Oh well, but you're an artist." And I told him, I said, "Bro, I can't remember who was there." And I said, "Brethren, which artist you talking about? That's a state of mind. That's not real." Are you crazy? You think I'm living look at how it has you to think now. Way now, like you're some, like I don't even say no, you're a fictional character in a story. You're an artist. What the hell?
Yeah, because we come to a place where everything on the island was taught to the islanders from the outside. So when somebody on the island say, "Well, I want to make music," the word for that is artist, and artist is a word that comes from the outside.
Right.
So because the word comes from the outside, the traits attributed to that word has to be attributed and displayed by the person who's local. So you can be local and a different kind of artist. You just have to be a celebrity. But there's a way that music, the art, the stories, the culture function within the society to give you a warning, to make you remember, to make you appreciate. And it wasn't about hanging up a thing in a gallery and dressing up fancy and drinking wine. It was about reverence, it was about respect. That's what it was about, to remember where we came from. That's why these images were important. And when you're able to to master you and share that image with the world, then you have a powerful thing. You have a very powerful thing. That is Trinidad and Tobago. In all of the chaos that is Trinidad, they're unified. Whether it's a Trini-looking Chinese man, or a Trini-looking white man, or a black
There's a
one.
sense of patriotism and nationalism, how the flag anyway they see it, and the anthem and Trinidadian. Trini come first. I remember having that experience. Work day, study day in Trinidad. I went to get a job. The guy said, "Are you a Trinidadian?" I said, "No, I'm employable." He said, "What, you want to be a Trinidadian first?" I said, "We can't find a Trini." But we don't hear that in St. Vincent, We just look at Chinese man working there. And this one here, we're not saying we're not taking foreigners as long as they skill and, that particular expertise.
Correct.
But number of low-level jobs and things, people are here, and stake our jobs.
So
True.
what is it that we have to do to confront this what's the word, archaic this archaic way of living, of relating to each other, right? Because although we live here, although we live together in this island here, we have the same day and night, the same sunshine and rain. If the volcano erupt, we gonna realize how together we are, right? Because all the way here, the ones who could leave will leave, and the ones who can't leave will be here, and we'll have to bear our grinds. So why do we have to look towards the outside to decide how to treat each other? You know what I mean? And it's not like a kumbaya thing, and it's not like we need to love and all of that. It's just respect. Maybe.
That's the way we was taught. We was taught in every aspect of our lives to look outside, right? Which is why it's the exact opposite. In every aspect of our lives, we should look within, and you will find the answer guaranteed, 100%. So it's like, this is that statement that you made. Who can leave will leave. The same statement, right? That statement is a mental thing. It's who can leave mentally will leave, and who has to mentally just stay will stay.
Joe Grind. Yeah. Well, I mean, we've been on for 19 minutes so far. Seems like well, I see lots of people. Well, I see we're getting shared and people are liking it. Nobody's commenting though. I don't know if anybody's interested in our conversation. The hope was to create a vibe, you know, stimulate the space. If it was good, I guess you guys would have indicate. But if you have any questions, you know, if you feel like commenting, just, you know, come in and say a thing. If you feel like
African Industrialization Day.
Yeah.
Right, which is a big one. People have heard much about that day. You see them things they don't get no big push.
Yeah, there's get miss on the radar. Yeah. In general, even
Mandela Day.
Yeah.
That
don't get no big push.
Well, the guys in Trinidad started the International Men's Day, so that gained some prominence 4 or 5 years
I think
now.
I see.
I saw that. That was yesterday.
Yesterday. Today's International Children's Day.
Yeah.
But you see, all these United Nations conventions we sign on to, all governments don't pay more attention to it.
Right.
You know, and it's sad. And then people in civil society don't take it up. They say, you know, that's what it is.
Right.
But what's the importance of these days though? Why is it important to celebrate them or to remember them? I mean, what we actually, that question, I bring the other question after. Why is it important to remember African, you know, African Industrialization Day or Selassie's birthday or Emancipation Day? Why is it important to remember these days?
Well, it's a historical significance, and every nation, every race will have some pointers in life. You'll hear the Japanese say, or the Germans, never again. The Jews, I don't hear black people say never again for slavery. Like, we welcome it, because like plantation slavery going on in St. Vincent. Nevertheless, in a sense, there's a pointer where you come from. That moringa tree to the mango tree in the back, and we know it's 365 days in a year. And every year, if we could do something of significance or importance to speak about that part of Mandela life, or that part of Malcolm X's life, or Butler, or Chatoué, we pick that aspect and develop it. You get more people educated and involved, and the consciousness grows, and people would operate differently than on the smartphone, because when you put on the smartphone, the information we're talking about to get over, you're going to get it. It's all there, but it's all over and scattered. But that sort of level of consciousness and involvement, a conscious, steady, forward march. We are Vincentians, and we want to develop the country, and we have to take care of the environment, and we have to look at climate change, and we have to look at the health and pollution, and care for your brother and sister and so on. That's a different level of education, but you want people at the community level to be involved with that. Yeah, but right now the separation, everybody is living in a virtual world. 7 people sit here and we all on a different app and something else, so we don't really communicate. We talk,
each other, right?
Yeah, but that level of conversation then to develop ideas, it doesn't happen. You know?
Yeah, for the longest while I've been trying to push some reasoning about certain specific strategic moves. And I mean, yeah, as I say, we talk, but as of now, we still can't really get that action man out of people yet.
Use it in smaller
Yeah.
doses to people. Black man, like he can't take a heavy dose of that information. You shock him and go, you know this and so on. Then when you give him in smaller doses now, you still have to deal with smaller groups of people because not everybody so readily want to change, you know, and get over the sameness that they in. They would complain things ain't changing, the place is boring, this ain't happening and so on, but they themselves are not making that effort to change.
Right.
You got to move from one position to the other, you know.
Yeah.
That's it.
So that's it, right? You have to be able to move in the direction you want to move from one position to the other. That's been the triumph of our people, you know. Coming out of the plantation colonial society, it's been a constant, non-stop movement in every front towards freedom. To this moment now where we could, you know, have devices in our hands and enjoy freedom like everybody else, as long as you can pay for it. So it's for me it's really about recognizing that whole journey there, you know, and knowing that you stand on these shoulders and this is why you are like this right now. And for me that's what the music is about, that's what the art is about, that's what the storytelling is about. It's about recognizing the triumph of the journey and where I am in that journey. And if that's my role, that's my role. You know? So that's the goal.
As a storyteller, facilitate the storytelling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So I guess we could bring it to an end. I think this was lovely. It was lovely to have you share your thoughts with us.
Abuzanimah.
And we
Been for the legendary Fountain of Youths.
yeah. And we look forward to coming to you again in a more systematic, you know, structured manner.
Come on.
And again, we want to thank the guys at the Catapult Caribbean Grant. We want to